I can go back as far as, I'm guessing, 1988. I'm thinking for my first fictional crush.
Yeah, cue the Jurassic Park theme song.
I'm a dinosaur.
Thank you.
Get it.
Okay.
I get it. Gadget Gear Spring from
Gear Spring.
from Chippendale Rescue Rangers. I vividly remember me, like, she was the only girl on the crew.
The only girl for you.
I was like, I was 5 years old. She was also a mouse, and
Well, obviously the mouse thing.
right,
Yeah,
of course,
for sure.
of course. But like, I remember thinking to myself, like, there's like always some subtle, like, flirtatious tension with her and Chip, and tking to myself, what if I?
It should have been
her?
me.
You know, like, literally, like young child thoughts of that. So here's our question. First, earliest fictional crush, way back in the day. Who do you got? Len, you got something?
Yeah, so mine was Shang from Mulan.
Oh, good
okay.
choice.
Yep.
Very good
All right.
choice. Man, that dude, like, from the get-go, he is just tough and strong and handsome, right? Like, and then he spends a lot of the movie shirtless. So.
Yeah, sure. It doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
I watch Space Jam a lot. I think Lola Bunny. I mean, it's a very popular one, but Lola Bunny's probably in there.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to think back what's the earliest, but that's probably it. That's probably one of the earliest.
Well, when you think about it, it's weird to look back. I mean, even as far as, like, Bugs Bunny or, like, Felix the Cat, even back in the day, and the way that they drew these characters. Yeah.
It's not great.
It's not great, but it's so weird that they're like, what if we made this rabbit sexy, huh?
It's
It's a weird thought. And
anyway.
Yeah. Like, I don't know.
We're going to be getting into this.
We're going to be getting into this today.
Yeah.
Should we talk about it?
Let's get to it.
Let's do a podcast.
Right after this. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Save and Continue, where pop culture meets theology. I am everybody's.
Someday.
What?
It's theology meets pop culture.
It's the
So it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I don't know that we've gotten it right.
Just cancel
more
it
than
all.
2
It doesn't
times.
matter. It doesn't matter. I am everybody's the least popular anime body pillow, Fox.
I am the most popular question mark?
In my home, yes.
In the home of Kyle Fox, the anime body pillow. I am Steve, and we have a very wonderful and special guest today. LenLenRabbit, how are you?
I'm doing well. Really happy to be here.
We're really
glad
happy
you're
to
here.
have you as
Thank you.
well. Hey, so we're going to be talking about Fictophilia today. We'll define that in a little bit here, but when it comes to attraction of any sort, there is very usually going to be a difference on some of the core feelings and whatnot, and how these things form and the like when it comes to men versus women. And so Kyle and I, just a couple of guys, we wanted to get
Just a couple of dudes being bros.
That's all we. Bros,
That's what this podcast
when people
is.
think about Steve and Kyle, they're like those dude bros.
That's all we are. So we
with
needed
with their sports.
right. So you love baseball. Stop.
I do love baseball.
So we needed another perspective. We needed somebody outside our milieu.
Yeah. So we got Len here. Len, tell us about yourself.
Okay, yeah. So I, first off, I've dealt with Fictophilia a little bit in my past, so I'm really excited to be able to bring that conversation here and kind of share that female perspective. About me, I'm currently almost done with my master's in Christian counseling. I'm a student at Gateway Seminary.
All right.
So that's been really, really great getting to study both psychology and theology and how they meet and what that looks like. I also work for Beneath the Tangles, which is an organization that reaches out to the otaku community, trying to bring in Christ's name. We write articles, we have a Discord community, and I'm a staff member there, and I help co-lead a Bible study there with our Discord community. So yeah, that's a little bit about me and bringing this. I'm also total nerd, video games, pop culture, mostly anime. That's kind of my big number one.
I don't know.
love.
Your background it doesn't really.
Yes.
I'm not really sure if I believe you. You only have 12 pictures of anime characters, so.
Yeah, I have much more out there, but they couldn't
Yeah,
fit.
yeah.
So this is what we're bringing.
Sure.
I gotta say, I love your Iroh one most of all. Like, you got a lot of good
Thank
characters
you.
there, but Iroh is my
Mhm.
spirit animal. He is such a good man, and
Yes.
especially as a counselor on your part, I can see him
Mhm.
very much being a good role model there.
Sure,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yes. Yes. If the world listened to Iroh, I think it would be a much more peaceful and harmonious place.
Preach.
Yeah,
Yeah,
agreed.
absolutely.
Yes.
Yes. So, okay, let's start with how did you get into this counseling thing? Like, what made you want to start doing that?
Wow, that would just be God,
Hmm.
100%. I actually, when I started seminary, I really wanted to do missions. I did a lot of mission work overseas in Asia, really loved Asian culture. But as I kind of started that journey, I went to counseling myself for the first time to deal with some stuff. And God really just laid it on my heart as I started falling more in love with Japanese culture and kind of also seeing the need for counselors there, kind of understanding that emotions are not something that's talked about in their culture, which can be really, really harmful. So yeah, God just used a lot of different things, and was just very, very clear to me that my at least pathway to take in seminary was counseling. Um, so yeah, it was really, really just him. I had no interest before that.
All right.
Yeah, man. I mean, as far as Asian culture goes, as an organization that deals with combating loneliness and helping people connect to like different churches and things like that, we have done a lot of research into like the oh my gosh, what are they called? The hikikomori, the missing
Hikikomori, yep.
millions. Yeah, and just how
Mhm.
there are people who will not leave their houses for months,
Mhm.
years at a time. And I was reading recently about the 50/80 problem that's going on in Japan right now, and that's
Yep.
50-year-old humans who have been isolated at home for decades, and their 80-year-old parents are having to take care of them.
Oof.
Yep.
Sometimes the 80-year-old parent dying, and the 50-year-old kid,
Mhm.
right, have no idea how to handle that.
Yeah.
And so they'll put them in the bathtub and forget about,
Oof.
or
Oof.
stuff them in a closet or whatever, like things like that. Yeah, because they have
Yep.
so heavily self-isolated that
Yeah.
they just don't know how to handle something like this. Like, yeah, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely a different culture. I mean, we struggle with loneliness here. It's something like 60% of Americans say that they struggle with loneliness at least once a week. If you limit that down from to average of 35 years old, it's every day that they say they struggle with loneliness. But I don't know that we have something to that extent.
Yeah. It feels like different categories there.
Yeah. But today we're not talking about loneliness. We want to be talking about fictophilia.
Yes.
Now, Fox, define fictophilia for us, and maybe is there like a way that we can differentiate that from? There's also fictosexuality is something that has become more common in lingo today. A thought on like exactly how we would separate these two and how to define it?
I am not an expert in this, so I'm going to go
Right.
straight to the world's resource on defining things, Wikipedia. I mean, have it right here. Fictosexuality and fictoromantic are sexual and romantic attraction towards fictional characters in media as distinct from living people in real life. To put it pretty simply, like you have a strong sexual or romantic attraction to a fictional character.
So we have the straightforward definition, but
Yeah.
Len, you obviously are going to be someone who has a much wider and deeper understanding with this, with your major and with you, with counseling and whatnot. So what would you add to this? And kind of like I said before, how would you differentiate between fictophilia and fictosexuality?
Oh, wow. Okay, so I think the lens that I bring that's important to understand is that when we talk about being attracted, we talk about romance. Underneath that is something deeper, which is a need. And I think what you're seeing when we talk about fictophilia and fictosexuality is that these fictional characters are replacing a need that these people who are attracted to them have. And that, in some ways, is not really different than with relationships. I mean, God made us for relationships. We're made to have these needs met. So when relationships in the real world become kind of a dangerous place or a scary place, then you see these people kind of moving to that. But it's really not that different. It's just a need being met by these characters, which is very one-sided instead. We can definitely get more deep into it, but I think when I think about the definition, that's kind of just the difference, is it's more of kind of a one-sided having a need being met in this way, if that makes sense.
And then we're just having, with so much more mass media and culture, and with so many more people sort of retreating to the internet for relationships and the comfort of that kind of stuff, and especially we'll talk more about AI chatbots later, but we're actually seeing a demographic of people that are preferring fictional characters or preferring fictional relationships, that they don't just say that they don't have like just fictophilic feelings, that they are fictoromantic or fictosexual, that is their preferred partner is a fictional partner. So today, because we deal with nerd culture a lot, and nerd culture is where this is going to land, but also because we are a Christian organization that wants to talk about lots of situations like this, we want to talk about this specifically, what we think about it, how we think it hurts, or what way it impacts people, and the way that we should be perceiving this as Christians. So just right off the bat, let's talk about a little bit of our own experiences. We aren't just people who heard about this on the internet. We are all three people who have experienced this in some way in their life and have some sort of familiarity with it. So Kyle, why don't you start us off? What is your experience with fictophilia?
I mean, I think part of the hard part I have about this conversation, like coming to it personally, is I want to distance myself because it is something that is, I would say, outside the typical, at least in a lot of human history, I guess, the typical sexual spectrum. To me, it feels foreign and strange and weird. And I want to say, nope, that's not me. My crush on Lola Bunny was just like, oh, I was just a kid and it's, whatever. But I mean, like we said, it is a spectrum. It is in that realm. There are greater degrees, I would imagine.
Right.
But so I would say that would be my experience. Is there's probably never not been a time in my life where I have seen a fictional character in a show, a TV, whatever I'm watching, whatever I'm reading, whatever, where I'm not like, that person is attractive, like that is just kind of a thing we do, I would say. And I'm hoping I'm not just standing here on my own, bearing my soul and everybody else disagrees with me. But I would say that's just a standard part of life. There are things that we find attractive and our brain doesn't necessarily distinguish between the fact that is a character in a cartoon and that is a person extant in real life necessarily for all of it. And sometimes that has the degree with which we engage with it can be different.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it was a couple of times. It began with Sailor Mars from Sailor Moon. I've talked about that on the podcast, that she was one of my earliest crushes, but like Sailor Moon was a big reason why I got into anime altogether, because this wasn't just like cartoons about turtles fighting each other or chipmunks saving the day or whatever else. Like,
sure,
these were characters that were personified very deeply as real people with real emotions. And I don't know why Sailor Mars specifically was somebody that I very much connected to mentally, but I very much started like a lot of my thought process was about like, okay, how would I get a girl like her? Or how would I be a person that is attractive to her or whatever else? And to the point that like legitimately today, Hinore is her character name in Japan. My oldest child is named Rei, like, because as I grew up,
I did not know this.
Yeah,
I did not
literally
know that was the connection. Okay.
As I grew up, I learned to kind of process through it and got a more of just a healthy, like, she was my favorite character.
Sure, 100%.
And so, but my oldest child is literally named after her. And so then later on in life, when I started, I was probably like 10, 9, maybe even at that time. But as I got older, it was Tifa Lockhart.
Everybody's favorite.
Right. Tifa Lockhart was a really common one from Final Fantasy VII. And that one for me was a very long time that in the back of my brain, she was kind of the ideal.
The archetype of your perfect person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I wrote fan fiction. I wrote like all kinds of stuff, just stories that included me in it, but also involved her and the whole Final Fantasy VII world. I was obsessed with Final Fantasy VII.
Does any of this still exist?
No, absolutely not. But
I would have put you on blast.
But it was something that I maybe honestly until college was something that was in my mind of the type of woman that I wanted, the type of person that was an ideal for me. Strong women were always very attractive to me. So, I mean, Sailor Mars, Ray, it was the most strong-willed and sort of combative of them. And then, of course, Tifa, while she's very kind, is also a powerhouse.
You guys need weapons? Ugh.
Yeah. Physical powerhouse. And so it was probably not until college that I was able to just leave those things behind and start thinking to myself, the ideal human for me is going to be a human that I meet that helps me grow in Christ and that I love and loves me, et cetera, you know? And so, yeah, that's kind of my experience. Len, how about you?
So for me, my first really, I would say what was like a deep emotional attraction was actually a book character from his Dark Materials, which is a trilogy. The Golden Compass is the first one, which most people are more familiar with. But the main protagonist or main male protagonist in that Will, when I was in middle school, that was like my first really time I dealt with it. And then later on in high school, Doctor Who, specifically the Doctor played by David Tennant.
David,
that was
yeah,
deep.
yeah.
Yes.
Was he 10?
Like,
He's number 10, I think.
10, yeah.
10th Doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yes.
anyways, yeah, Doctor Who, that was a whole era. And then in the college, when I got really serious about anime watching, and this is the last time I really dealt with it, it was L from Death Note.
Oh, okay.
If you guys are familiar with that at all. So yeah, those were the three that I really, really dealt with.
So in what way would you say that this, because you had said that this is something that was kind of personal for you and that you had experienced kind of deeply, in what way did these feelings or whatever else kind of like impact you? How did that have an effect on your life?
Yeah, so I think once again, kind of in the beginning, I mentioned something I really love to add to this is the lens of the need-based part. Like every time somebody has an attraction or something that's a deep emotional attachment, there's a need that's being met. And I think for me, when I was in middle school with Will from his Dark Materials, there was a lot of stuff in my life where I was just feeling really lonely. Like I moved to a new school, there was a lot of bullying going on. I was really having a hard transition. And journeying through these books with this character, there was this kind of need being met of like, I felt seen. Like if I could kind of put myself beside him, I could travel with him, I could be a companion with him. There's kind of this need of having purpose and having placement. And I think that got really amplified of really, I guess escapism is one way of looking at it, but really just giving me a feeling that like, in a way I could not be alone. Like there was someone that got it if I kind of put myself beside him, but how it affected me, like at the end of that book, and spoilers for anybody that wants to read them, don't listen for the next like 2 minutes. But
Well,
like
actually,
at the very,
we have a thing
end,
for this, by the way. Thumbs down is spoilers are still going. We'll give thumbs up when it's over. So
okay,
yeah,
awesome.
that's it. So go ahead, spoiler time.
So at the end of this book series, basically him and the girl that he's with, they have to like eternally separate or the worlds are going to like completely disintegrate into nothing. And it's this horrible ending. And I remember like I cried for months, literally every time I thought about this. I mean, my attachment to this was just it was way more than what it should have been for just like a middle schooler reading a book. And I remember like, yeah, just bawling my eyes out for months every time I talked about it. Even now people ask about the best book series and I'm going to recommend it. I'm still going to say, read this. And I would talk about it all the time and nobody had read it, so they didn't understand. But yeah, it was something that just stayed with me. I was like maybe 12 at this time, and I literally wanted to write an email or a letter or go up to the author and just be like, what is wrong with you?
Phil, what are you doing here?
How can you do this? Like, it was just more emotions than what was needed in a little middle school girl reading this book. But then I think what even deepens, like I mentioned with the Doctor Who in high school, that was really when I started to notice a difference of like I'm separating myself from real world people to a fictional character because the Doctor became way more mesmerizing than anybody else, way more intelligent, way funnier. Even though I did like date some, there was always this difference of like there's no real life person that I would even put on the same level. And I would not want to hang out with people because I'd want to go watch the Doctor.
Oh, yeah.
And even at that time, like getting posters, getting all of that kind of stuff, I didn't really have, but if I could have, they would have been everywhere. Like it was just this journey of #1 fangirl. Even after that, I can't watch another Doctor in the shows. I feel disloyal. And I think a huge part of that, and once again, kind of that need being met, is at this time, there was something kind of getting drawn out in me of just the idea of like liking the science, liking fantasy, liking this stuff that I had no one else to relate to, feeling very down about myself in the real world. But then I would go here and spend time with the Doctor, and I'd get very inspired. And I would be like, I can do this. I can achieve these great things. Like he's doing it. If I could just be by his side, like life would be so much better this way. And it once again kind of journeyed into this idea of like life would just be so much better if I could be with him, and having kind of that need base there when I didn't have those flourishing relationships in my life that were encouraging me, or were helping me feel like I had purpose at all.
Can I ask you a
and
question?
then, yeah, go ahead.
Did you have animus toward Rose? Like his companion? Was there, like, especially since they kind of had a little bit of a hint of a romance? Did you have a feeling about her?
So I never had a feeling towards her. I wish I could definitely be her, but me as a person, I've never really dealt with jealousy in my life. I've never really been like a hateful person. So I don't feel animus towards anything really. So for me, that's kind of a bad question. But did I wish I could be her? Yes.
Yeah.
Was I also absolutely distraught when the author or the writer separated them? Yes. Did I cry for months? Yes.
Well, because there's something about writing where the writers will write it so we can also put ourselves in the shoes of the main character, right? And so you don't feel animus toward them because in a way they are you. You are them and they are you, you know? So yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And then the last one, and I'll say this briefly. So when I started watching anime and getting really into anime is also about the time that I got saved. So I had kind of this inward journey of like, I was moving from a dark world into a light world.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of turmoil inside about dying to self and what that looks like. And when you watch Death Note, you see these huge moral questions really get questioned of like, what is right? What is wrong? What is pleasing? So I think for me, in seeing L when he came into that series, was really this embodiment of wanting to be so much better. And in my life at this time also, I had kind of, once again, that need thing is I had been dealing with a very, very isolated time, being hurt by a lot of people, not wanting to engage romantically with people that were going to hurt me and things like that. So once again, really clinging to this idea of like, my crush is going to be this person that can't hurt me, this person that inspires me to be better. I mean, Elle's intelligence, like way up there and just so inspiring of literally even in real life making me want to like study harder and learn more, because it's like, oh, maybe if I could get better, I could be with someone like this. Or maybe like if Elle was actually real, he would accept me, and kind of some of these thoughts, which of course I didn't vocalize with others, but internally had. And yeah, really just drawn into that time in my journey of really kind of moving more towards the light and what is better. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. That was kind of mostly my experience.
Yeah,
and what
absolutely.
That
yeah, no, that was great. And you talked a lot about, especially when talking about the Doctor, about wanting to come back to it and the fact that it meets this need and this loneliness. And just reminded me like I, when I was through my life, actually, before Slay the Spire, really, I talked about like my bragging point of video games was I beat Final Fantasy VII 14 times. It's my favorite game. I went back, I beat it a ton of times, played it over and over and over again. But as you mention it, I would not be surprised at all if I were to look back and realize that a lot of that was just me wanting to reconnect with this person I felt, this relationship with, that I wanted to be a part of, that I sort of missed my friends, quote unquote, when they were gone.
Did you ever go on a date with Barrett, or?
Absolutely not.
Only Tifa, I guess.
Yeah, only Tifa. Well, and again, we've talked about this before of who's Cloud's, OTP, who's Cloud supposed to be paired up with.
Sure.
And for me, it's always Aerith. Always Aerith. Every single time I played, it was Aerith, because Tifa was for me. Tifa's my girl.
Yeah. It has to be.
And Cloud and Aerith were together. Literally, I never deviated from that because in the back of my brain there was that sort of connection.
You'd be playing the game incorrectly.
Exactly.
It'd be wrong.
Yeah. So it's absolutely, it hits us in so many different ways. And, you know, Fox, you're talking about just the whole like base physical attraction of it as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the most common form of this and the way that most people experience this. But there is also the other side of this where people develop these real romantic, emotional connection with these people. So let's move on to talk about this a little more in a mental health perspective. We started this topic because of a jumping off point with Post Games, right?
Post Games is a podcast that I love. Chris Plant.
Yeah.
Post Games had a conversation about fictophilia and fictosexuality, talking about it from a pretty accepting standpoint.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which was really interesting to hear. I don't know if it was accepting in the stance of this is all good or great, but it was not. At the very least, it was not condemning.
Right.
Which I really appreciated, the idea that, yeah, we're going to talk about this as a topic and not as let's point and laugh or let's, lean into this or whatever. Like that was really interesting.
Yeah. And so they were having this conversation, secular podcast.
Yes.
Having a conversation about this, again, much more accepting, kind of landing on what a lot of people land on these days of, hey, if it's not hurting anybody else, then it's fine.
Sure.
It's not hurting anybody. But especially as we were talking a little bit beforehand, Len, I think we think that there's a little more to it than that.
Yeah.
So, Len, again, you're the expert on your way to being the expert here, whatever you want to say that. Tell us about how you would think that this is more than just, hey, if it's not hurting anybody else, it's fine. How does this impact our hearts, our minds, our spirits as a Christian as well? You know more about that in seminary. So talk to us a little bit more about how this impacts us.
Okay, yeah. So I think the first thing we have to think about is go back to the garden and back to the fact that we are made in the image of God. That is something that scripture tells us. And with that idea is we look at the relationship of the Trinity. And that's part of that image being imparted to us. And in that relationship is a perfect safety. It's a perfect security. It's a perfect peace, a perfect harmony. And that is what not only has God designed us to try and replicate on this earth as part of the journey of sanctification and our relationships with others, but it's also what our heart really yearns for and what we're looking for in others. So we have that need to be met for what we're really, really yearning for, but we also have this need, a need to be obedient and to also carry that on to others. So that's kind of the base of how I want to look at this. And the way with our mental health that it really impacts us is that both of those are broken when we don't have relationships with real people. On one side, kind of like I mentioned earlier, if we are having only a one-way connection, there's no need that can be met on our end. We think we're meeting it because we do have that meaning of, or kind of that feeling of safety because it's not dangerous. We have that feeling of security because we're in control and that relationship is only going to end when we want it to end.
Yeah.
We're the ones that are going to be able to spend as much time with them and connect with them and fantasize in our heads about whatever that looks like, which temporarily, once again, does give us that temporal need. But what we're also missing is that relational aspect that God made us for us to be able to have reconciliation with one another, to be able to experience to forgiveness, to be able to experience comfort, to be able to experience people rejoicing with us and mourning with us, all these things that the Bible says are good and important about human relationships, we can't actually experience. And then on the other side of that, we are not being able to fulfill what God has for us. So when we are kind of too busy, in a way, I guess, like playing in the sandbox with this stuff that eternally is not going to matter in these relationships, we're missing out on relationships God actually wants us to be a part of and wants us to have. So the brokenness in the world continues. We don't get to help make a difference in that with God. And what that's going to leave us on like a mental health perspective is just more broken. We're going to continue to be scared by relationships. We're not going to be able to really heal in a way that is going to be edifying. You know, one of the things I've loved so much about studying counseling and learning when you kind of mix it with theology, or I guess integrate theology into it, is how healing like cannot take place outside of God and outside of other people. When you have a relation or an experience that has hurt you, an experience that has caused damage, the only way that can truly be healed is when you get a new experience that replaces it. And that experience gets rewired into your brain, rewired into your nervous system. So a lot of people that are experiencing fictophilia, they're running away from something broken. And the deeper they get into it, it's only going to be more brokenness, because all of the elements of healing that God actually says are only going to be found in true relationships. So when I think about the hikikomori, like you mentioned earlier, which I'm sure among that demographic, this is a huge thing because they don't interact with people. They don't go out. And not even just in Japan, the hikikomori, that's something I actually wrote a paper on for school the other day. And it's something that's actually widespread now. It's moved to most other Asian countries, especially in Singapore, it's high. It's moving to the US in different ways, even slowly. So this is becoming more of a global thing. It's not even just in Japan. And part of what that also reinforces is that God makes all people equal. Regardless of where we're from, we still have the same needs. We have the same things that we need from him. So anyways, when I think about that, it's a one-way ticket in the wrong direction. That's what it does. It just creates more brokenness and it keeps us from healing. That's one of the perspectives I would add on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a loop, right? Where you find this person or these people that are an ideal because especially with a lot of fiction, it's easy for side characters to be archetypal characters that are going to be painted as an ideal. And
That's true. Yeah.
They'll have personality traits and flaws and whatever else, but they'll be the same. They'll always be the same. They'll always be exactly what you expect them to be. And so you find this connection with this person, and then you go into the real world and it's not that. And so you go back to this person and you get more used to that, and that's more what you want. And you go back to the real world and it's not that. And so you keep retreating to this safety net. But like you're saying, it means that what you're really doing is disconnecting yourself more and more and more from what we were truly intended for. God's first vocal evaluation of man, the first thing that he says about man is, it is not good for man to be alone. He sees that he is good and he sees things about him. The first words he speaks about man is, it is not good for man to be alone.
Relationship is important.
Relationship is vital. And I do want to make sure that I pair this with Corinthians, and that Paul says that, Paul encourages people not to get married. He thought Jesus was coming back in his lifetime. So it's not like, it's a little bit different but Paul encourages people not to get married.
To be fair, not getting married is not the same as lock yourself in a room with Final Fantasy VII and that's all you need. But my point, that is a little different than,
My point being that we should not expect to get married, to have a romantic relationship.
That it is a mandate.
Yeah, we are not mandated to do these things. You're right. We are not owed
that relationship is a spectrum within human experience.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's another part of it, is that especially within, well, I'm not gonna say especially within the culture I'm familiar with, romantic relationships are a standard. In nearly every fiction that you have. I was just talking about Chippendale Rescue Rangers, right? A show for 5-year-olds from the 80s, and there was still flirtatious tension between two of the characters sometimes. And it's just this thing where romantic relationships are portrayed as a standard. Disney movies are a huge example of this, at least the older ones. Yeah. They've gotten away from this really, really well.
Right, it stands out when there's not a romance involved.
Right. And but usually, especially all the old princess ones, a romantic relationship wasn't just necessary, it was kind of the plot.
That is the happy ending.
Yeah, the true love, the destination of our life is this romantic moment.
Yeah.
And so we have a culture of people who were raised with this mindset that romance is necessary for us, and they go into the real world and it's so hard to find. It's so difficult. And I mean, even as somebody who was pretty confident in himself, who went on a lot of dates and things like that, it was really difficult for me to finally land on, okay, but who am I going to spend my life with? Right. And I got dumped way more than I dumped anybody, and it hurt. And yeah, that's fair. And
yeah, I get it.
But romantic relationships are hard and scary and painful, but fiction portrays this as, but if you find your true love, it's just going to be easy.
It portrays it as both necessary, yes, easy, because you cannot fully replicate a human being with a pencil and paper. Like,
Right.
it's literally impossible. You can portray a person as having some kind of inner life, having viewpoints on things, maybe being able to guess what they might answer a question as, but it would have to be entirely within your own personal, or, you know, the creator's personal viewpoint. Like, I can't go up to Tifa Lockhart and say, what do you, it would have to be the creator of that character who says this is what they would say. So I'm not having a relationship with the character. At the very most, it's a relationship with the creator of that character, because that person is fictional. And so when we go into real life and I go up to somebody and say, hey, what do you think about this? Like, I don't have, like, there's so much variety in there that is impossible to guess, because people are people. People have inner lives by definition, and just cannot be predictable 100% of the time. And that makes it dangerous. That makes it dangerous because, well, I want to spend my life with them, but what if they have a different viewpoint on this thing? They check a bunch of boxes, but if they don't check that box, then, okay, now I have to start over, you know, or whatever. And
Well,
so,
that's such a huge part of this. I did a lot of counseling. I will say right now, I am not a professional. I did not graduate with a degree in this. Everything I'll defer to Len, of course, absolutely. But I did a lot of counseling as a youth pastor for the time that I was. And there were a lot of students who, after they graduated or whatever else, they meet somebody and they would ask, I got this question a lot. We're thinking of moving in together. And I'd say, no, just get married. Like, don't do that. Just get married and then make that commitment to each other. And they'd say, no, but we want to try it out first. We want to try it out and see how it goes. And what I would tell them is, it's going to be bad because you're going to be with somebody for the first time, morning to night, every moment of every day. You'll be there. You're going to see every side of them. Every part of them is going to be there with you. And it's going to be hard at first. And without some sort of outside commitment made, without some sort of, you know, marriage or binding commitment made, you are going to want to get out of there. It will be unsuccessful because you are experiencing a life with somebody. And humans are humans. You are getting every aspect of them, and it's going to be difficult. And without fail, every single one of them who did end up moving together ended up breaking up and not being together afterward. And it's just this thing where once we start seeing every aspect of somebody, it's difficult.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's not perfect and true love or whatever else. And so, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, part of what we're saying is we can understand why the safety of a fictional relationship is attractive.
yes. I can memorize everything that Yuna from Final Fantasy X said. It really isn't that much. It's a long game. She didn't say very much.
Yeah.
So I can know everything she's ever thought and said in that game. I cannot do that with a human being. Even if they said something yesterday, that could change. And predictability is difficult to deal with if we want safety. Like, if we want things to be predictable, it makes it safe. And if somebody is not predictable 100% of the time, they are unsafe to a certain extent. Yeah.
Yeah. So as far as the emotional health part of it goes, we see very clearly that this is something that can be really damaging to us as we are getting a false depiction of what relationships are like. Let's talk a little bit about the scriptural side of it as well. We've brought this up a little bit already, right? Talking about that as well. But as you said, Len, we are made in the image of God. There is a part of us that is beyond just our DNA and, you know, mental health or whatever else. There's a part of us that is deeper and more important than that. And this part of us is meant to be in relationship. Why do you think that's important? What do you think it is about relationships that is important for us as Christians and for our spiritual health? Why are relationships important?
So I think, of my understanding, it not really the image of God, but when you think about what I'm thinking really mostly is about marriage right now, but I think it fits this question. When we look at marriage, what that actually is that's a reflection of the gospel. That's why two people come together on earth. It's to mirror the bride and his church and what that looks like. And when we look at relationships, once again, kind of going back to the Trinity, it's a mirror of that. Why is that important? We have that need to feel it, but we also have that need to show it to the rest of the world and to show what that looks like and to show that there is a God that loves us, that we are committed to the same way other people, or we can love them and commit to them. You think about things like even just the fruits of the Spirit and being able to reflect that. When you show a relationship that's full of patience and kindness and love, that points back to the Creator, something that is better than the brokenness of this world that everybody's trying to escape from. And like it's both. It's we have the need to feel connected to God and to be close to him, but to also just reflect that to a world so they also can become in a relationship with him. It's all about that reflection. That's how I think I'd answer that.
I mean, you blew my mind for a second there. We were meant to reflect the fruits of the Spirit, but how many of the fruits of the Spirit can only be in community?
Yeah.
You can't have patience with nobody.
They're concepts. They're not things I can hold.
You can't be kind to nobody.
Right.
Like these are relational aspects that we are meant to portray, and we can't be patient and kind and loving.
I was thinking that
without,
same thing.
Without community, without relationship.
Right. Fruit. The demonstration of my faith is working that out in community with people.
Yeah.
I cannot. I would say that it is impossible to have a fully realized faith in Jesus Christ that is also entirely solo. That is entirely cloistered off from other people.
Right.
And romance and non-romantic relationships are different aspects of that. But even in our non-romantic if I am called to go to the ends of the earth and share the gospel with people, how am I to do that? Without relationship. Relationship is required for these things. To care for the least of these, relationship is required. And we have to be able to navigate that in a safe way.
God himself is a community.
Sure.
He is a triune being. He is three in one. God is a community. When Jesus began his ministry, one of the first things he did was get a community of people around him to do these things with him. Like community is focused on so much. Let's talk for a second now, though, about, okay, let's say that there's somebody out there who has a community. They got friends, but they don't have a romantic partner just because they prefer their romance to be whatever fictional character.
Okay.
That they go and they hang out with friends and whatever else, but at home, they prefer the romantic thoughts and romantic feelings to go toward fictional characters. What's the struggle there? Why would we say that is still not healthy? Like, what's going on here? Len, let's start with you. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so what my mind immediately jumps to is going to be attachment theory and how everything in life is going to go back to childhood trauma almost every single time.
I'm going to pause you for just a second there.
Yes.
I obviously know, but for Fox, why don't you talk about what attachment theory is?
Please, I'm intelligent.
So attachment theory is basically this idea. It was created by John Bowlby, and he basically realized that everybody has kind of two defaults when it comes to relationships. You have people who avoid relationships because they've been hurt and they've learned that in relationships, primarily with their caregiver, whoever that was, their mother or maybe a father in certain situations, that being close was not safe and it was not secure. It might be unpredictable. So one way to get out of that safety and to stay in control and to stay out of pain is to avoid. You see conflict, you see something that scares you, you walk in another room. You don't cry, you try to remain invisible, you try to just get away from it and avoid that situation entirely. That's one half of attachment theory. And the other half is what we call our pursuers. And this is basically you have to control the situation in order to get your needs met. So this is going to be like a child that learned they had to cry to get mom's attention. They had to cry to get food. They had to throw a tantrum to be heard. And what happens is this kind of defaults is where children, especially in really, really young years, our nervous system kind of goes to this default. And it's not something we can really control. It just becomes part of us that when we experience a dangerous situation or one where we feel unsafe, we're either going to run towards that person and try to control them, or we're going to avoid and run away. From my viewpoint, when I think about fictophilia, that is almost always going to be avoidance. Something has happened in their past where they have realized this relationship hurts, it's scary, I'm going to be unsafe. And it's not just even subconscious in their mind, it's their entire nervous system, their entire body is screaming internally, this is not safe, you have to get away. So when it comes to relationships with friends, those are very different than romantic ones because we don't have to be as vulnerable. We don't have to be as intimate. We can kind of put up a facade. We can, in a way, get needs from them without them really getting anything from us. But when it comes to intimate relationships and romantic ones, those are much more scary because they're much more intimate. They're much more vulnerable. And there's not really as many places you can hide. So when you ask that question, like, why would they have good friendships, but they just prefer this? My view on it is that if they were really, really honest, it's not that they prefer it, but they don't know how to get it in a way that's safe. So they're hiding behind the mask of this is just who I am, leave me be.
Man, that is such an important point because when we live our life on the pain that we have experienced, we kind of begin to expect pain, right? We kind of begin to expect that from the other people, and that, you know, if I get close to this person, they're just going to hurt me. And all of a sudden, all of our relationships, romantic or otherwise, have a caveat, have this asterisk on it that says, I am this person's friend until they are attracted to me or I'm attracted to them, or we start to get really, really close as friends or whatever else. There's a level of intimacy that I need to stop and say, this is danger zone. I'm retreating to my safe place. So like that sort of like pain for our path, the attachment theory aspect of it really is more than just, I prefer romantic relationships. It is something that impacts all of our relationships.
It feels like there's a subconscious thing going on. Where you're not even actively thinking about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if we were to do our best now to try and say, how can we do better than this? So let's say there's somebody in the room as we speak that sorry, I'm trying to look at my notes on my phone, and for whatever reason, it didn't recognize my fingerprint. What would we say to somebody to be able to say, hey, here are steps that we would suggest to start kind of stepping out of this? We've chatted about why this isn't great, the mental health perspective, the faith perspective of this. How would we suggest, hey, if you or somebody out there struggling with this right now, here are some thoughts on our part on how to begin stepping out of this. Again, Len, we'll start with you.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so what comes to mind, and I'm going to kind of tie this back to scripture because I think it's important, is when we look at John chapter 15, we see this concept of abiding. Jesus is like, if you abide in the vine, I'm going to be with you. If you don't, like, the branches are going to be burned off. And you have this image of kind of life or death, so to speak. When I think about this, if we really look at it, of you're either moving towards more brokenness or you're moving towards life, there's not really another answer with this. Like, relationships, as painful as they are going to be moving towards what God says is good. Or if you're not doing what he says, it's going to be moving away, kind of branches thrown in the fire, so to speak. So when we think about that, I think the first thing is, number one, a relationship with God is the only thing that's going to heal anything long term. So that's going to be the first and fundamental, most important thing with anything, is to have a relationship with God.
And it's the only perfect person we're going to have a relationship with. Yeah. Go ahead.
And then a relationship with healthy Christian community outside of that. But individually, it's going to take abiding in God and also then abiding in those relationships. When you want to run away, you're going to have to stay, trying to work with that person. Because once again, even on a non-biblical perspective, just an emotional kind of physical perspective of our nervous systems, it takes anywhere from like 5 to 9 times of a bad experience to be rewritten with a good one. So when you've had this thing in your past that's pushing you away, it's going to take, like I said, 5 to 9, maybe more for some people, of good experiences to replace that, to where your nervous system starts to calm down, to where your brain isn't going to immediately jump to, oh, well, they're just going to leave, so I need to leave first. Or they said this, so it means this. And that takes abiding. It takes committing with people. So the first thing, like I would say, is like, you have to have a relationship with God, try to get in healthy relationships with people, obviously, that aren't going to hurt you, even in community. But it's also going to take the hard work of staying and the hard work of doing. More than anything, I would recommend counseling. 1000%
Yeah.
go to counseling. It is not something to be ashamed of. It will heal you and change your life. But that's really, from my lens, what I would say is the most important thing is you have to abide in Jesus, abide with others. You have to get these healthy experiences, healthy engagements back. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. That's my viewpoint on it.
No, that's great. That's really good.
What I'm thinking of as somebody, like, if you are somebody who has a friend or is in community with somebody who might be dealing with this, I wonder if the first, like, the podcast that we listen to, post games, what I appreciate about the kind of neutral stance it took was it's not trying to fully condemn or fully lean in, this is fine or whatever.
Right.
And I think that is good for us, for somebody, if you have a friend, to come in and not demonize the person, for sure. Recognize that everybody has needs. They are not outside of the realm of normal human, like, emotion and capacity and need. We all deal with these things. We could lean into something exactly the same way, but it could just be a hobby, where we're replacing something with something else. So recognize that they are a human. They might need something more, but they are still a person. And don't demonize the thing that they're interested in. I'm not going to say, well, Final Fantasy is the devil now because you were interested in Tifa Lockhart. Like, it's okay to have a hobby. Like, it is not necessarily the root of the problem to be interested in pop culture-y things. We can just, like other things, like money or whatever, success, work, lean into it too hard where it becomes the object of our devotion rather than more healthy things.
That's
so
go ahead.
I'm just saying, like, that is, I think, a good place to start. Is we might find this strange because we might not deal with it personally, but recognize that when we break it down, it is simply another example of the thing that all people do is replace Christ with something else, an idol, as the object of their devotion.
That's actually something that's important to point out right now. Is if you're listening to this and you're thinking to yourself, wow, that's really weird, I can't believe anybody would do that.
Yeah.
But then you're going to turn around and go, like, and now I'm going to recommit myself to my 40-hour-a-week basketball obsession.
Sure.
I won't, like, there are different ways that we replace relationships.
Yeah.
This is one of the ways that people replace relationships. Make sure you're taking a good solid look at your life and reminding yourself there's a lot of different ways people do this. Relationship is the important part of this. At the very end of the day, what we are telling people is that it is important to be connected with other human beings. It is important to have intimate, not in the romantic intimacy, just intimate in general relationships, close relationships with other people.
Yeah.
And as we're talking about this, I'm going to add on, if you are somebody who knows somebody, be patient with them.
Yeah.
Be accepting of them, kind of like Kyle was saying, like be accepting of them. Don't condemn them. Encourage them out of it, of course, but not condemnation, not mockery, and just be patient because they're expecting to be hurt. They're expecting struggle and difficulty. And if struggle and difficulty comes and then you return and say, hey, but I'm still here. Man, that sucked. And I hate that we went through that, but I'm still here. That's going to mean the world to some of these people. That's going to be huge to some of these people. And so be patient, be there for them, be there with them, abide is the word that Len used. Abide with these people. And if you are struggling with this, abide with them as well. Okay, we're going to wrap up here, but we're going to move on to our next part. But Len, we'd like to give you the last word. You are the expert here. So just final thoughts. What can we do about this? How should we be seeing this? Final thought. Go for it.
Yeah, I think my final thought as you're talking is just one thing I'd add is really, like you're talking about loving people, is we as Christians and even as people who have dealt with this a little bit, it's so important to help other people to understand that their pain makes sense and just tell them that. It may not be healthy, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
And to just be curious and ask them. It's such a difference when you go up to someone and you're like, man, what happened to you? Instead of, why are you this way? You're ruining your life.
Yeah.
And I think that hard work has to start with the church, and it starts with us as individuals. And I think that would be the biggest thing. I would say the way we speak to ourselves and we speak to others is your pain makes sense. Now let's talk about how to go forward with that. That's the last thing I
preach it. Yes, absolutely yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hey, we're going to move on to the next part. Len's sticking around for it. So we're going to talk about what we've been up to, what's brought us to worship. But first, I want to talk to you, listener, about Save Point Ministries. A lot of what we're talking about here is the importance of relationship and community, and how in our spirit this is something that we need. If you're somebody out there who's struggling with loneliness, I usually tell a story about community and gaming and how we have fun with that, but I think really the whole point of what we're talking about today is that intimate community is so important. We want to find you a community that shares these hobbies with you, that wants to talk to you about the anime that you love, the video games that you love, these characters that you love, but also they love Jesus. But also they are your local church. There's somebody that you can see every week, a couple times a week. You can do Bible studies with them. You can be there with them, and you can game with them. And you can talk to them about the shows you're watching or whatever else.
Yeah.
We want this for you so deeply and so much. If this is something you're interested in, head over to savepointministries.com. You can fill out a brief form, and we will get started on finding you a local church in your area that loves the things that you love, but also wants to love you as Christ would. So if that's something you're interested in, please head over to savepointministries.com. We'd love to get you connected. With that being said, Len, we're starting with you. What have you been up to? What have you been playing? What have you been watching? What's going on with you?
Yeah, so playing. I have recently got back into Wuthering Waves. I don't know if y'all have ever played that.
Yeah.
Very, very like Asian-esque based game. And I played it a few years ago, but got back into it recently. And I have just been asking myself, I'm like, is this is what heaven's going to look like? I hope this is what heaven's
Wow. Okay.
because you're playing it and it's just like, I don't want to leave. Like, this is just incredible.
That's how I feel
So
at
yeah,
Disneyland.
I think as far as gaming, that's good. And then I've started watching recently Campfire Cooking in Another World, which is an anime.
Okay.
One of the best isekais I've seen, just laid back, just a bunch of cooking stuff. But it is once again, I think that draw of heaven, it's the idea of like, one day there's going to be total rest and there's not going to be all of this stress and all of these things that we're dealing with. And it's I think just been encouragement to really just finish the race and keep going, because God promises we'll have that.
Man.
And if we believe in him, we will.
It reminds me of like the
Dungeon Meshi?
Dungeon Meshi, yes, but what's it? I know
Delicious
it's Dungeon
and
Meshi.
Delicious and
Delicious
Dungeon.
Dungeon. I was like, what's the American word for it? Delicious and Dungeon. I always just so much loved that they saw the beauty in everything. Like this horrific beast is trying to murder them, and they're able to overcome this, and they're like,
And then eat it.
but now how can this be redeemed? How can this be made wonderful and delicious and whatnot? Yeah, absolutely. I just finished Carl's Doomsday Scenario. That's the second book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series.
Gotcha.
If you don't know, viewer, about the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, I basically just tell people that it is. See, I'm spacing on everything now. What is the space
it's a
one?
book.
The space one by Douglas Adams.
Hitchhiker's Guide.
Yeah, it's Hitchhiker's Guide meets Ready Player One, is really what it is. Hitchhiker's Guide meets Ready Player One, and it's outstanding. It's so fun, but also can get very serious sometimes and ask some very, very real questions. Minor spoilers, in this one they start talking about the NPCs and how in this video game world that they're in, and how they are created beings. There is a lab that is growing these physical beings, and they are programmed with thought. They are programmed, so these are real physical beings that are programmed with memories and thoughts and actions. And Carl is beginning to ask himself, are these people?
Interesting.
Do I want to save them? Should I care about them? And it is such a fascinating conversation, and one that they haven't resolved at the end of this book, but that is really important and really central to a lot of what happens in this book. Is, are these manufactured beings
Interesting.
important to save? And it's such an interesting conversation. This whole series keeps surprising me. It is asking way deeper questions and going to way deeper things. I love it. It's really, really good. I highly recommend the Dungeon Crawler Carl series.
I've been playing a game called Esoteric Ebb. It's a disco-like. There's a game called Disco Elysium that came out 2019, I want to say.
Nah, man, disco like everybody's in bell bottoms, and
I mean, in Disco Elysium, the main character, yeah.
Anyway,
it's a disco-like, which basically means it's a text-based RPG. It's hard to describe. Basically, Esoteric Ebb is an RPG you play as a cleric who woke up, and you're in the middle of a Like, you have been tasked with discovering what happened to a tea shop that blew up. Why did it blow up? You're in this fantasy world, and you're also there's an election happening in 5 days. Those things might be connected. You have to figure it out. The cool kind of hook of this game is that each of the, so it's basically Disco Elysium plus D&D. Each of the 6 attributes from D&D, your strength, your dexterity, your charisma, etc., are voices in your head. So when you go and interact with somebody, and they're like, well, we should care about our fellow human being. Strength in your mind, who is basically a nationalist, like machismo, like we have to rule by power, will say this person is weak, disregard them, things like that. And you can take their advice, you can not, you can make choices based on those things. You have all your skills. It's a really fascinating way to kind of portray the game of D&D through a video game. It's also hilarious. Like, it's extremely funny and quite political in nature. Like, there are different political factions, and you can align yourself with them. It's really interesting. It's also heavily text-based. You are reading a lot. There is no voice acting, which is I'm not trying to say a negative against it. It just means know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying it, but it does mean there's so much focus you have to have on it that I will play it for a while, and then the next day I'm just playing some hard space shipbreaker, and I'm like zoning out and tearing apart a spaceship and recycling these parts and putting this computer in this part and just like simulating my, starting a union in space simulator. And so I'm kind of balancing both of those because they both take up very different parts of my brain, but enjoying both of them.
Nice. Snake draft. What's brought you to worship?
Wait, what was that?
Snake draft means you go one way and then you come back the other way.
Oh, good to know. I just learned something.
Yeah.
Recently, I have a 4-year-old son, which means spring break matters again. He's in preschool.
Oh, yeah.
And so when like spring break happens, I'm like, oh, we should plan something instead of it not mattering at all. So we went on a trip to the Midwest. We visited my family, my wife's, parents and others. And then went down to Kentucky and saw more family, in Tennessee and saw more family and some friends that moved over there. And on our way, we went to Mammoth Cave National Park. And there's just something about being in a big old cave.
Yeah, dude.
I don't know. Like, it was a pretty boring part of the cave. It was like the self-guided cheap one that you could do because we were just making a little pit stop on our way down. But even being in this, just like, there was no cave things. You think stalactites and stalagmites and all those things. It's a dry cave, though. It's basically a big tunnel underground. But even being there, just the size and capacity for, like, what's with it. Like, it just, you can see a path that you're not allowed to go down. And, like, even without knowing that path is going to go 5 miles deeper into the earth, you feel the weight and, like, cavity of it, and there's just something like at times it felt oppressive, but at other times it just felt like, just even though it's smaller than being above ground, obviously. When I'm outside, I'm like the entire sky. When I'm inside this cave, though, just it felt like this like expanse that existed. I don't know, it was easy for me to connect with and think about like how much there is to what has been created, like the created world and the depth, literal depth of it, I guess.
Yeah.
But it was I'm so glad we went. It was a really fun time.
Man, I used to do a lot of caving back in the day when I could fit in caves.
Sure.
But okay,
that's why I went to Mammoth Cave. Yeah. I have to be much bigger to not fit in that one.
I'm going to talk about, we're going to talk about nerdy things that brought us to worship. How much more nerdy is the Artemis 2, right?
Oh, man.
Artemis 2 is out there, if you don't know. It's circling the moon and then coming back to Earth.
It already has circled.
Yeah, it just circled.
On its way home.
Its way back. But they had an interview, and one of the guys on the Artemis said, like, what's impacting you most? Like, what do you love the most about what you're seeing up there? And he said, seeing the Earth from this perspective just reminds me that we are on a spaceship here, but you are also on a spaceship down there traveling through the Earth. And it is a spaceship that has been designed by God to suit you. That you live on a beautiful, wonderful place that was made by God for you. It's like, whatever you believe, whatever else, this is what reminds me is just how incredible God is with the creation beneath us here. And that we have this place that was designed for us. And what a cool like opportunity to have so many eyes on somebody talking about worship, right? Talking about how much he's praising God for this and how incredible this is. So yeah, this you can look it up online. You can say like probably just Google like guy on Artemis 2 talks about God or whatever.
It won't be hard to find.
It won't be hard to find or whatever else. So yeah, that was really, really cool when I saw that. Len, how about you? What's brought you to worship recently?
So what I keep thinking of is, I guess it's not nerdy itself, but it's a bunch of nerds getting together. At our Bible study at Beneath the Tangles Sunday night, we watched a movie, or I guess it's a bunch of like mini movies, from Voice of the Martyrs, which is about the persecuted church around the world and what some of these believers have gone through. And I've really just been thinking about that this week. And I think it's brought me to worship because, I mean, you're hearing these stories, and I had already read a book on some of them, but I hadn't seen the movie. So I mean, these people, they're giving their lives, they're giving up their families, they're in jail for decades and just these horrendous things. And I just think like yesterday I was walking around the city and it's just like, we have such freedom here. Like God has really blessed America so much that we have the safety and the freedom and the abundance of, I mean, even sitting here to be able to do this podcast and having the technology and the electricity and things that, other people around the world. So I think that's really drawn me to worship this week, of just the gratefulness of like what people in the past, even like, in the past have done that's able to have us be brought here, but also just what God has given us with that to allow us to keep it and the grace of that. I think that's really what's been on my mind in worship this week.
Yeah. It reminds me of I think it was a 2015 short documentary called Love Costs Everything. And it was talking about the persecution of the church in other countries today. Like just taking a look like, hey, you sure do have it good in America. Right. Here's how it is for the Christians in other countries, and just how difficult and what a huge struggle it is, and like the heavy persecution on believers in some other places. So yeah. Well, Len, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah,
your wisdom and intelligence and knowledge has been huge. This would have been a much dumber conversation without you.
Yep. So just like usual,
like all of our other podcasts. So no, we genuinely appreciate you. Why don't you give one more plug for Beneath the Tangles or whatever else you got going on, and then we'll tie up the podcast. So go ahead, one last plug, go for it.
Okay, well, thank you so much for having me. Just one more thing about Beneath the Tangles. Like I said, we reach out to the otaku community. We produce articles. We have a Discord community where you can come and be a part of, hang out, play games, watch anime. And then we have a Bible study every Sunday night that's welcome to whoever. We have people from all over the world that come and attend. It's right here on Discord. So that'd be my last plug. And once again, thank you guys so much for having me. It's been such a blessing to speak about something that I'm so passionate about, and also that hopefully can help people understand this. So
it has been by the grace of God that you were able to be a part of this, because when we first started talking about this topic over a month
or two ago.
But we immediately were like, we want another perspective. Like, we got to get somebody else in this. And so I started contacting like all of the people I know, and everyone was like, we don't know any women who have experienced fictophilia. Like literally everybody, every woman I reached out to and every man I reached out to, they were all just like, either no, I do not, or no, I don't know anybody else who has. But then one person told me to reach out to another person who told me to reach out to Len. And here you are, and it has been such a joy to have you. So thank you very much. We also want to say a big thank you, by the way, to all of you all for listening, and to the Music Mechanic for the creation of our theme song. You can head over to the Music Mechanic on YouTube and check out some of his stuff.
Yeah, and one last throw out to Save Point Ministries. That's why we do this podcast. We want to talk about cool things and talk about fun things and watch anime and all those things, but we don't want to do it without you. We don't want to do it without being in community with people and having deep, intimate relationships with the church. So Save Point Ministries, if that's something you're looking for, please go to the website, find us on Discord, reach out.
Yeah. And if you want more podcasts about Christian type stuff, but also about nerd type stuff, that intersection, head over to the LTN Podcast Network. That's Love Thy Nerd Podcast Network. Got a lot of cool stuff there.
And I believe that's all we have. Once again, thank you, Len. And thank you for being on Jesus's favorite podcast.
We'll see you guys later. Bye. Saving Continue is made by Save Point Ministries and is a part of the Love Thy Nerd Podcast Network. It is produced and edited by Steve Valdez and Radio Matt Coker. Intro and outro music are done by the Music Mechanic. A special thank you to the Glue Network for their support. For more faith-based and nerd-friendly podcasts, Go to lovethynerd.com/listen.